Alright, so recently we looked at some really cheap gear that just was no good. And I know I'm going to get some comments from people saying that not everybody can afford expensive gear. And I get that, I get it. But I would just like to say that if it costs you life or limb, you really can't afford the cheap stuff either. Now, today I want to talk about maybe a happy medium. Basically, if you're looking for quality budget gear, don't overlook making it yourself, all right? Or at least modifying stuff yourself. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can make yourself. It just takes a little bit of knowledge and a few tools. So I thought we'd go over that today. I've got a selection of things here that most people should be able to do this stuff with a little bit of practice, all right? I have a script. I just want to say that because if I don't, I will go off topic and this will be an hour-long video. And we've got a lot to cover. I want to stay on topic here. So some of the benefits of this is you're going to save a couple bucks over premium or custom built gear. You can get exactly how you want it, or at least try to, or get it as close as possible. The other thing is there's a certain pride of ownership that comes from making or modifying your own gear. It's just fun to use gear that you've made yourself or that you've modified to work really well for a certain task. All right? There's no billboarding. I'm getting kind of tired of some of these tools that are being sold, and I mean they look like it should be a NASCAR or something. You got brand logos and all kinds of different stuff on there. It's like, man, this is my gear. I paid for it. I don't need a bunch of flashy stickers and signs and stuff all over it. Anyways, all right. It's a good way to build skills and learn more about a specific tool or task, all right? Because if you're going to be making it, the tool to do the task, you know, it goes hand in hand. You're going to learn more and you're going to build your skills, right? And it's also fun to use found items or mementos that you picked up along the way. Stuff like wood or bone, antler, you know, stones, that sort of thing. It's kind of fun. You can look at that stuff when you use that tool or that piece of gear, and it's kind of a reminder of where you've been and maybe where you're going and where you'd like to be, that sort of thing. It also gives you a good reason to learn and identify local resources. So there's a couple of good reasons for building your own gear or modifying existing gear. All right, let's get into some of the things that I think is well worth looking into making yourself. If for nothing else, just the experience, all right? So first up, probably the most popular thing is knife making. Now, don't sweat the complexities of forging and tempering and, you know, all that stuff. What metal to use, it can get really complicated, excuse me. It can get really complicated really fast. And if you've got the time and the materials and the space to do all that, absolutely go for it, have at it. If you don't, a really good alternative is just to buy a knife blank, all right? The important thing is to start with a quality name brand knife blank if you want a good quality knife in the end. Don't be buying some no-name, super cheap junk, all right? You can if you want, I'm just saying, I wouldn't. So here's two knives that I've made. And they're very simple puukko style, right? These blades cost about 15 bucks. I'd say they're easily on par with Mora, all right? And I bought these at Ragweed Forge website, and they're very affordable and they're high quality. You're gonna have to dress them up a little bit, but they're really nice. Now this particular knife here, this is an antler at the front, and then a piece of Purple Heart, and that I got out of a semi-trailer. The antler, of course, I found. And then the wood for the handle is a piece of local hawthorn. All right, so really cool that all these handle parts are stuff that I found or picked up along the way. And then just a basic leather sheath that I made. So, and this isn't braggy, nothing like that. I mean, these definitely could be a lot better. But if I can do it, you can do it. All right. So here's the other one. Pretty simple, again, just a puukko style or a rat tail style. Pretty simple, and this is just brass, Purple Heart, a couple of G10 spacers that are black. I should have used white, and this is like curly maple that I actually purchased. So this knife right here probably cost me 35 bucks and some time, and I like it a lot. It's actually one of my favorite knives. It's light, it's small, it's easy, it's simple, works great. Nice simple sheath. Now you can also get more traditional style knives. This is an Essie, but you can get the slab style handles and the bolts, and make a knife like this too if you want. But adds a little more complexity to it. These are a great starting point. All right, that's about as far as I want to go with that. The tools that you're going to need are a drill, sandpaper, a vise or clamp for sanding and finishing, and then you're going to need some glue, epoxy, and files or rasps for rough shaping, and the blanks. All right, like I said, I got these at, there's all kinds that you can get, everything from a fillet knife to a really short stainless name brand carving knives. So there's lots of selection out there. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is a buck saw or a frame saw. Folding buck saws are a popular build requiring little skill and few materials and few tools. You can get pretty much everything you need to make a frame saw. Now, I don't have mine. I made one years ago. I've got a video of it on my channel somewhere, but I can't find the actual saw itself. But essentially it looks like this. This is an antique. I didn't make this one, but it's the same basic principle. You've got two pieces of wood out here as your handle, you've got a cross brace, and then you've got a tensioning device. So this is basically cordage. You'll want a toggle on here. There's many videos out there. And then you get the blade from the hardware store and use a couple nails for pins and put it all together. Really simple project, fun project. And in the end, you've hopefully got a usable tool, right? The tools you're gonna need for that are a saw, a drill, is helpful, sandpaper, a carving blade or a knife, and some cordage. All right, pretty simple stuff. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is a tomahawk or an axe handle. So those are something that you at some point, if you have axes or tomahawks, you're probably going to break the handle, or you're going to buy one that's got a really, that's enough of that rattling, or you're going to buy one that has a really bad handle that you're going to need to replace, especially with the cheaper tomahawks, the imported stuff. So it's pretty easy to do and pretty cost effective, and just a couple hours of work you can actually modify the handle. Like, let's say you get an axe that you don't like the handle shape on, you can change it, make it yourself, or you can buy them. All right, a different shape or a different length. And the big thing with the tomahawk is that, like this one here, this is fairly short, and I made this short specifically to fit in a set of saddlebags on my motorcycle, and it fits on my backpack without the handle sticking down and causing problems. And I can switch it. The nice thing about a tomahawk is you can just pop the handle out and switch it to a longer one if you want to in the future. All right. The only thing I would say is, if you got sent a tomahawk with a bad handle, don't order a handle from the same company that already sent you one bad handle, Cold Steel. Go to the hardware store and pick up a sledgehammer handle. All right, they're about the right size. You're gonna have to do some trimming to get the shape right, but you'll be able to pick whatever length you want. And you can usually find a good selection of them at any hardware store. As far as axes, some hardware stores have a good selection, some don't. You can mail order them, anyways. So the tools you're going to need for that is, you're going to need files, rasps, a knife, some sandpaper, and you're going to need wedges if you're doing an axe head. Or you're going to have to make the wedges in any case, all right? All right, next thing you want to talk about are fire steels. All right, this is mine. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you've probably seen this in videos. It's getting kind of worn down there, but this is basically just a 1/2-inch fire steel on a piece of antler. And I like it. It's fun to use. It was fun to make. But you can make these in all sorts of different configurations. Now here I've just got a fire steel with a little lanyard loop on there, so I can hook it onto a strap, and so you don't lose it, like a pocket strap or whatever. And then I've got some tape on there, and then I've got a couple different size antler ones here for when this one wears out. All right, pretty simple stuff, self-explanatory. Basically, you're going to need some fire steel blanks, which are actually pretty cheap. You can get them for a couple bucks a piece for the big 1/2-inch ones. Those will last forever. And then preferably get the one with the hole drilled in it, because if you try and drill the hole yourself, bad things can happen in your shop, all right? You're gonna want a drill to drill the handle material, and you can use anything, wood or fat wood especially is pretty good, or like these are antler, or you can use bone, whatever. But you're gonna need a drill, some epoxy, sandpaper, and files is generally what I use, all right? Next up, so we're going to talk about lanyard beads. Now these aren't really something that you're going to use like a fire steel or a knife, but they do add a lot of personalization to your gear, and it's a lot of fun to make them. All right, but in certain cases, like this little Essie here, if you've got a deep set sheath like this, that little toggle can actually give you a little bit of grip to help you pull your knife. All right, so they do have a little bit of purpose. And in the case of smaller fire steels like this, if you put one of those on here, it would actually give you something else to hold on to while you're striking it. All right, so with these, you're going to want a drill and then a scribe, which is just a sharp nail will work. I think one of these I did with just a sharpened piece of steel, you know, like a nail. And then you're going to need some sort of pigment. Now the pigments are kind of cool because you can use natural resources, charcoal, or I used alder bark dust in one of them that I've got. And then you're going to need something to set that. And so like a coating or a sealer. You can use waxes, oils, pitch, pine pitch, or pine tar, or any other type of stuff like that. Or you can just, I use butcher block conditioning oil is what I use on most of my hawk handles and other stuff, so that works really good on there too. So yeah, these are pretty fun. Now these really do add a lot of character to your items. So personalization, especially if you make something yourself, it can just make it that extra little bit special, whatever. All right, next up we've got leather goods. This is kind of like knife making. You can really go overboard with the amount of tools and equipment and techniques that you think you need to get started, and it really is as simple as just something to cut leather with, needle and thread. That's all you need to get started with leather work. But you can make simple projects in the beginning. Things like knife sheaths, axe sheaths, masks, belts, straps, loops, and slings and baldricks, for like a baldric sling for an axe. And the materials can actually be pretty cheap. Now, they can get really expensive depending on where you're getting them. But you can actually get materials pretty cheap for leatherworking at secondhand stores or yard sales. You can pick up bags and pouches and things like that and get the buckles and clasps and snaps and all sorts of things. Well, the snaps I don't think you can reuse. Some of them you can. They're screw in. All right. So this mask right here, I made this pretty simple. It's really simple. It's just stitched together. It's got a welt in it. It's medium. It's not super heavy duty stuff. And then it's just got a little closure stud there. And those are really cheap, like $1 at the fabric store. So you get really simple with these. And these knife sheaths are actually very easy to make too. They're not that difficult. Just one piece of leather, and then you fold this over, you put a welt in it, stitch it together, or rivet it together, fold this over. Yeah, pretty simple. Got a saw sheath here that I'm or pouch, whatever you want to call it, that I'm still working on. I need to finish it. Okay, got a snap here, so you can thread that through some molly, put it on a backpack or whatever. It's just stitched together. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. And along the lines, so the nice thing about leather is it's cheap to get into, and the tools can be cheap. It can be very easy to do, and you can make all kinds of stuff, from useful items to stuff that just, looks cool. Leatherwork also makes a great winter project where you have a little less daylight, or if you're out on the camping trip or hot tenting or something like that, and you got some time where you can sit around the fire and do some work. Pretty good. Along the same lines of leatherwork is also kydex, and I don't want to speak too much to this, but you can make sheaths like this fairly easily. There is a learning curve, and it does require a lot of tools above basic leather work. But saying that, sometimes a good kydex sheath can really bring out the usefulness of items. Like, for instance, this Essie knife here, this sheath here allows me to carry in this position. Flipping these up, I can carry it a little bit lower, and then if I move these around, I can actually carry this horizontally. It really makes this knife very adaptive to how I want to carry it. I can carry it up here, carry it on my belt, carry it upside down on the back of a hip pouch for hunting. But it does require a fair amount of tools, and there is a pretty steep learning curve. But once you get the basics down, you can do stuff more, you know, like this. It's another saw holster, basically. You can carry your saw, whatever. Anyways, and I made a lot of axe masks with kydex, which I don't have any with me, funny enough. Alright, anyways, complicated. You'll need a lot of tools for that. So the basic tools for leatherworking, though, is going to be needle, thread, something to cut the leather with. A drill really makes stitching a lot easier if you drill the holes. You're going to need dies, glues, and stamps if you want to get more advanced, alright? So that's about it. I hope this inspires you to try making a few of your own items. It truly is rewarding to use and maintain gear that you made yourself, alright? There's just something to that. It's really nice when you look at something that you've been carrying for quite a while and you're like, yeah, I made this and it's working out great and I enjoy it, you know, that sort of thing. My advice would be this: you're going to make mistakes, okay? Be humble and embrace the process of learning, right? Don't get frustrated looking at what somebody else is doing and get frustrated because your stuff doesn't measure up to that. I will show a picture here of like my first tomahawk mask. It was hideously ugly, but you know what? It still works. It works. It's functional, and that's the important thing. And if you stick with it, you'll get better, all right? So there's no shortcut. You have to practice to proficiency, all right? That's all I'll say on that. And that's part of the process and part of the fun. So that's all I have. I appreciate you watching, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. All right, bye for now.